Hello, Dr. Liam Brierley here. Good afternoon from Liverpool. Now I wanted to bring something very topical to this Science from Home Twitter show, so I'm going to talk a little bit about where our current pandemic came from. Now it probably doesn't really need an introduction, but just to clear up some of the confusion going around about names, we talk about coronavirus, but the word coronavirus really just refers to any of the viruses in the family Coronaviridae. Now, this includes other epidemic coronaviruses, but also some coronaviruses that cause the common cold, and many that don't infect humans. The plural of coronavirus is coronaviruses, and the specific new virus that emerged in Wuhan in December is named SARS-CoV-2, whereas the disease caused by this new virus is named COVID-19. Now, where do new viruses like SARS-CoV-2 come from? Well, most human viruses, about 60 to 70%, are zoonotic, which means that they can be transmitted from animals to humans. It's often animals we have lots of contact with, like domestic animals, or animals that we're closely related to, like primates, but it also includes many other wild mammals and birds. Now, SARS-CoV-2 certainly isn't going to be the last new virus. This zoonotic transmission is constantly happening, such that we recognise, on average, about 2 new viruses infecting humans each year. I mentioned other epidemic coronaviruses. SARS coronavirus emerged in China in 2003 to cause around 8,000 cases, and then later MERS coronavirus emerged in the Middle East in 2012. It's caused around 2,500 cases today. It still occasionally causes infections. And I've scaled the area of these viruses to be proportional to their outbreak size. And if we move on to our novel SARS-CoV-2, I'm recording this in advance, but by Friday we look set to reach around 500,000 cases. Now, SARS originated in bats, but evidence has shown that it first transmitted to palm civets, which might be the cutest baby animal that I have ever seen, and then onto humans through contacting wet markets in Guangdong. MERS also originated in bats and then transmitted to camels, where evidence suggests it stays in camels for quite some time before infecting humans in Saudi Arabia. Now, the question now under investigation is, how did SARS-CoV-2 reach humans? To answer that, we need a modern science known as bioinformatics. What is bioinformatics? Well, it might be broadly described as the science of finding information within complex biological data. But I'm going to narrow this down to genetic data. Essentially, the genetic code of all organisms, and viruses are no exception, is one big long string of coded information. And we can use that information to tell us important relationships. So here I've got some genetic code from 3 viruses, almost like a visual puzzle. And you'll hopefully already have noticed that the top and middle virus are very genetically similar. And this already tells us that they're closely related, and so one might have evolved from the other. Whereas this bottom virus is quite different, so it's fair to say this looks unrelated. We can apply this to see which viruses are most similar to SARS-CoV-2, which might give us some clues as to where our pandemic has come from. Now, bioinformatic analysis shows our pandemic virus to have 96% genetic similarity to a coronavirus found in a horseshoe bat like this one. So it seems very likely this virus has its origins in bats, just like SARS and MERS did. However, one part of the virus that looks quite different to this bat coronavirus is this, a protein on the outside. Instead, it looks very similar to the equivalent in a coronavirus we found in a diseased pangolin. Now, below is the protein sequence comparison, pointing out the areas in common, quite like our visual puzzle from before. There's been second-hand reports that pangolins were kept around the wet markets where the outbreak started in Wuhan, but this still isn't quite enough to say yet whether the virus has moved from bats to humans via pangolins without more investigation, because other animals could still be involved that we don't yet know about. So that's in a nutshell where we think this pandemic came from, and also how we know. I'm very happy to answer any questions posted under this video. Otherwise, thanks again for joining me and enjoy the rest of the science show.